My favorite time of year is when I can come out in the garden and I can start harvesting the corn and enjoying the potatoes, and it's just a fun time of year to be outside, be in the garden, and really reaping the harvest of all the hard work this summer. So I've got some potato plants here that we're starting to dig up, and I kind of started working on this one, but this is a newer variety. It's called Peter Wilcox, and it's a really dark purple potato. As you can see, we've got a bunch of potatoes coming on these plants, and still working this soil, so it's a little bit heavy, but it seems to be doing all right with the potatoes. And probably the best time to start harvesting your potatoes is when they're ready, and as the plants kind of start to die down, you'll see a little bit of the potato plant starting to die down. You can dig those potatoes up and start enjoying them and eating them. But when it's time to harvest them for storage through the fall, so if you're going to grow a whole bunch of potatoes and store those through the fall, you want to start digging those up around the first part of September. Don't let them stay in the ground too long, and even into October. That's about the time when they're harvesting potatoes in Idaho. That's a different kind of potato. That's your Idaho russet, and those russets, they need a much longer time to mature, where most of the potatoes we're growing here in Utah, especially in Cache Valley, are going to mature in about 110 to 120 days. So if you plant them in May, they're going to be ready the latter part of August, first part of September, where a true Idaho russet potato takes about 150, 160 days, and that's not going to be ready until the first part of October. So that's why they're harvesting potatoes in October in Idaho. But it looks like we got most of those potatoes, and each year I add a little bit more compost and straw and whatever I can to the soil to get this to loosen up, because it's a fairly heavy clay soil. So off that one potato plant, we got about 5 potatoes. Let's see what the next one's going to do. I'll move my soaker hoses out of the way. We'll see what we get here. I got my potatoes planted a little bit later too. It was about the first part of June, so we could probably let them go a little bit longer and see what's happening in there. But oh yeah, we got some more potatoes coming up here. So what we want to do with these potatoes is, when I come out to harvest the potatoes to save them through the winter time, is we'll dig them all up, gather them all up, and put them in potato sacks. So you can use either a burlap sack or a mesh bag like this, and we'll dig those potatoes up. And then you want to put them in fairly cool, slightly humid location, and I'll usually let them stay there for a couple days in a barn or a shed or somewhere. You want them to be in a spot where the sun won't shine on them. So completely dark if possible. A little bit of light's okay, but we don't want the sun shining right in there, because it'll make the potatoes turn green. So usually I'll let them stay in that location. Can be a little bit more dry, so that's why the shed or the barn works really pretty well. Let them stay there for maybe 48 hours, and then I'll pull all the potatoes out, kind of sort them to size, and usually they've had enough time to dry, and so the dirt that's all stuck on the potatoes will be dry. It'll come off really easy. Sometimes just handling them, you can rub most of that dirt off after they've had a little bit of time to dry. So we'll kind of rub some of that extra dirt off and then sort them by size. We'll usually have the biggest potatoes and sort those into another bag, and kind of medium-sized potatoes and smaller potatoes. That way, depending on what we're going to use them for, we've got them kind of sorted into sizes. And then after those couple days, they're just ready to go into storage. You put all your potatoes into your sacks, and then usually on a pallet, or you can hang them up as well too, but usually we'll just store them on a pallet down in the cellar. And they do great in the cellar location where there's a little bit of humidity, but also nice and cool. Temperature wise, we should be somewhere between 40 and 50, maybe 55 degrees for a perfect location to store those potatoes. But dig those potatoes up, let them dry for a couple days, sort them into size, put them in bags, and then put them into your storage location, and you'll be enjoying potatoes all winter long.